My name is Germana Ravanelli. I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist, a mind-body healer, a personal trainer, a nutritional therapist. I was taught that health is harmonizing the body, the mind, and the spirit. Thank you for opening up this video. My name is Germana Ravanelli. I come to you from Nanaimo, BC, Canada. I have been in the holistic healthcare field for over 42 years, and I am offering some videos on anti-aging, ideally for people sort of 40 and over. If you're younger than that, even better. If you're older than that, amazing. Welcome. Please stay and listen. This video is going to be about food and nutrition and what really makes the difference for anti-aging. Most people, we're kind of brainwashed into buying into the idea that, if we put the makeup on, if we do all this stuff, that will help us. But unfortunately, all we're doing is putting stuff on the lawn. We're not going underneath the lawn and going, what creates a robust, healthy lawn or garden or you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, the building blocks to good nutrition. And one of them I think is really important that a lot of people overlook, but there's a big nuance behind it. Even though I say, this food group is super important, the part that I will have you double check and do some private investigating on is, where does your food actually come from? Is it a feedlot food? Is it an animal that's been fed hormones and GMOs and corn and soy and grains to fatten it up with hormones to make it grow quickly so it comes to being butchered in 6 weeks instead of 3 months? It might look the same, but it actually is not the same. Whatever that animal has been fed, you're eating. And I think one of the things to really understand is your food is like oxygen. You don't want dirty food. You don't want dirty air to come into your body and hope that your body's going to be healthy. So we're going to have the conversation. Proteins comes from an animal source. I have met very, 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 very few healthy vegetarians. I've met people that go, I'm a vegetarian and I'm so great. And I did the same thing. And I actually ended up with an eating disorder and I gained about 40 pounds and I was exercising like crazy. And it took me I fought. I didn't want to eat meat. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I just didn't like the idea of, some animal paying because I need to have meat. But I actually got quite sick and I got obese, which was really disappointing. So we want protein. Where does the protein come from? And we'll go to the other two groups. Ideally, if you want to be able to slow down the aging cycle, you need to think, how many pounds do you weigh? Let's say you weigh 150. You want to have 1 gram of protein per pound of body mass minimum to maintain the muscle that you have and have the chance of building. In some schools, they say 1.5, but some people would have a problem with that. So what that means is that, say if you had 4 meals and a snack, let's say we're shooting for 150 grams of protein, you would need 4 of those meals to have no less than 30 grams of protein. You're not going to absorb it all. And then a snack of some kind of other protein. I know that's not realistic for some people. So just hear me out. If you don't have the protein coming into your system, your body will strip it from your own lean muscle mass. It will take it off your arm, your butt, your thighs, your abdominals, your chest. Your body will steal it like a squirrel taking bits and hiding them, because your body still needs to have those proteins available to repair your tissue. And nutrition is all about flooding the system with good nutrition so your body can repair its tissue. And if it falls behind on repair, then you're going to have fatigue, exhaustion, mental cognition issues, illness issues, and you'll definitely will not be able to lose weight. You might weigh the same, but you're more marble to your rump roast, we'll say. As we age, we lose the ability to keep our muscle unless we have a very deliberate practice. So protein, ideally 1 gram of protein, bioavailable protein per pound of mass that you are a day, split into meals. That's that. Your carbohydrates, which is your vegetables, your fruits, some of the grains, some of the potatoes, things like that. You want, and this is not something I do a lot of. I don't do a lot of like starchy carbs because of my body and its needs. But if you're going to do carbohydrates, I would get you to lean more to vegetables, green beans, broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, tomatoes, and fruit is actually quite good provided you don't pick super high sugar foods all the time. And if you're going to have like your rice with your meals, you try to reduce it to about half a cup. And then you have your vegetables and a nice dressing or butter, organic butter, things like that. I find that, and if this is going to sound hard to believe, because our Canada's food guide says, on the bottom is all carbohydrates, and just walk around and look at how unhealthy people are. Most people are not eating natural carbohydrates. It's crisps, it's potato chips, it's instant food, and that's instant dis-ease, instant blood sugar deregulation, and they're actually biochemically engineered to trigger part of the brain to having such amount of pleasure when you eat it, that what happens is your body's never satisfied. It wants more, it wants more, it wants more, and it creates addictive patterning. One of the ways to break that up completely is to have a nice big piece of meat, which sounds so crazy, right? Because then the body goes, I'm satisfied. And it's not a problem if there's some fat in that meat. Fat actually says to your brain, hunting is good, a hormone called leptin is released, and you're actually satisfied and relaxed. So it's wonderful. And so these are just very gentle conversations. Again, where do these foods come from? Do they come from Costco? Most of us go there because it's cheaper, but what we're actually eating is an inferior product that may as well be styrofoam spray painted because of the soil that it's come through. I pulled out a couple of my books that I used when I took my nutritional therapy course. So I'm not just somebody that's done a couple of weekend courses. I've spent well over a year and a half learning about nutrition from the Nutritional Therapy Association in the States. And the reason I picked that association is because they're not in bed with corporations. One time, not that long ago, I was teaching at a local senior secondary school, and it says, we don't use trans fats, we use cottonseed oil. And I just went, well, boy, that's funny, because cottonseed oil is a man-made seed, and it's a man-made oil, and it is a trans fat. So, they're brainwashing people from the very beginning. And what people don't understand, and if you ever listen to Robert Kiyosaki, he's a fellow who, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talked about why they created summer school. Why they had summer vacation, sorry for saying that backwards. They created summer vacation so that they could take the slaves' children and help pull the food off of the fields, and they called it summer vacation. And that was so that they could bring the harvest. And then they also decided how they were going to train the next crop of slaves to be dominant and submissive. So they train them, this is how you're going to do life, and that is to follow direction, to not think for yourself, to not question things, and to be good workers. And if you look at what happens in our school system, it's rampant. Most of what the school system offers is what corporations want them to teach, because they donate billions and billions of dollars, and they say, and by the way, we want this to be in your curriculum. Which is why there's so much confusion about food. Food needs to be something that your great-grandparents could identify it, not, these things of yogurt that, or not yogurt, but cheese that you pull into strips and all of that. All that you have to do is look at how scarily sick people are to go, something's wrong. And most of us don't take the time to feed our body, but we've got lots of time to be online. So it's about priorities. So I'm going to go backwards. Protein. Ideally 30 grams of protein, if you can, at 4 meals a day. If you're over 130, 140, and you want to lose weight, that's a great way. And then you backfill it with some vegetables, steamed beans, some broccoli dip, some berries, some things like that you really enjoy with some healthy fat. I'll actually buy organic whipping cream, and I'll whip it, and I'll have high-fat yogurt, organic, and I'll put protein powder in it, and I'll throw some berries on it, and I'll put some yogurt on top and some maple syrup. The maple syrup is a carbohydrate. Again, my body goes, thank you very much. I'm satisfied. My brain's happy. And I'm not scrounging for food later, and I'm able to maintain a pretty reasonable weight at my time in my life because I don't have all the energy to exercise like crazy anymore. So proteins, vegetables, if you're going to do rices and oats and things like that, wonderful. See if you can find organic. And I know that sounds annoying. The reason for that is because those crops that are made from this agricultural revolution, which has happened after the World War I and II, they strip the nutrients from the soil, and they keep spraying the soil with pesticides, and the pesticides end up in the food, and we eat the food. And now they have, Roundup, known as glyphosate. It's in all of these. You buy Cheerios for your kids, they're eating traces of poison. And then they go, we don't understand why Johnny has ADHD and he's problems with his mood and his problem with energy. He's malnourished heavily. And he's also ingesting huge amounts of poison that he can't get rid of as fast as it's coming in. So I remember I had a young child that was brought in because he had those kind of symptoms. And I jacked up his protein and I jacked up his fat and got rid of all of the convenient snack foods, and his behavior leveled out in a few days. And the parents were stunned. And I said, food is a signaling molecule. It says, do this, do that, do this, do that. And if you're malnourished, then the body's going to start to defrag. And then what would we do? We give them chemicals. We'll give them drugs. It's really a perfect scam. So here's one of the books. It's called Empty Harvest. If I can put that correctly, Understanding the Link Between Our Food, Our Immunity, and Our Planet. This is a very good book. This actually talks about that they didn't see things like cancer and heart attacks until they took things like real butter out of our food and brought in margarine and then started to add synthetic foods. We're not designed to eat plastic. And if you take a pound of butter and put it outside for the birds or the animals, and a pound of margarine, and you put them side by side, come back a week later, the margarine will still be there because the animals know it's not real food. There's something called innate wisdom. They taste it or they smell it, like, no, not me. But people do it because we've been brainwashed through marketing to go, this is good. It says it's base L, it's good. It will give you cancer because it's synthetic. It's highly processed seed oils, which is also something we shouldn't ever eat. Whipped super high, and then how they extract the seed oil is they use traces of heavy metals to pull it out to get as much as possible. And we eat that, and then it crosses the blood-brain barrier. And our beautiful computer is now being micro-poisoned. And I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm proving a point. So you want to go, what did my grandparents eat? Can I have and access those kind of foods? So real butter, real cheese, not a bad idea. The hardest part is to find out, was that animal raised on a natural farm? And so you might pay more, and yet it's always worth it. So I will go to the health food store and buy some of my things, and sometimes I will go to Costco, and sometimes I will go to the butcher. There's a place in Nanaimo called Meat Crafters, and it actually shows you where this meat was raised and butchered on Vancouver Island. So that tells me that there's accountability. It's not this monster machine. And I've bought chicken there, and it's so much different in texture and density because it's not filled with hormones, GMOs, and chemicals than, say, a chicken breast that I'd buy at Costco. A couple of years ago, I had a birthday party, and a friend and I were making shish kebabs, and you could stick your thumb right through the chicken breast from Costco. It had no density. It was a young, poor chicken that was butchered, probably maybe 8 weeks of age. And if you got it from a butcher where there's some accountability, that chicken would probably be developed for 3 months before it was to be butchered. One is chemicals by DuPont, and one is as nature intended. And we want to go back to nature because we are nature. So things like seeds, pumpkin seeds are excellent. Some sesame seeds are excellent. Some of the nuts are okay, but you'll also end up with a challenge with weight gain if you eat a lot of seed oils and seed products. At one point I was having flax a couple of times a day as a menu that I was doing, and my belly went and I was like, what is this? And I realized it was a negative consequence of having so many seed oils. So one of the things also to check is, how do you feel after you've eaten? Do you feel good? Do you sleep well? Do you wake up feeling good? That's an indicator. And if you don't feel well, you might say, what have I eaten in the last 24 hours? And that's your body giving you information. Another of the books that I think is really stunning, and this is very intimidating. There's a doctor, he was a dentist, Weston A. Price. This is a fabulous book. Nutrition, I can't tilt it. Nutrition and Physical, here we go. Degeneration, Weston A. Price. The enduring classic work of how what we eat shapes us for better and worse. And this was a fellow who was trying desperately to find healthy vegetarians, because he had this attachment to vegetarianism, and he would fly his plane all over the place and look at the natives and look at the people that were living off the land. And what he discovered is he could not find a tribe that survived, that was healthy, that was not eating some kind of an animal product. And he was very upset about it because he kept going and looking. But what I'm going to show you is what happened to people that were on their natural diet, and how you could tell through their teeth and their bone structure. If you're not getting what you need, your body has to strip it from your system, your bones and your teeth. And so he could see where sugar had come into the diet. And I'm going to show you just a picture of healthy. I think these are from Peru. You can see their face. I'm going to flip it. There I go. Sorry, forgive me for doing this backwards. So you'll see they have a full set of teeth, right? Say yes, full set of teeth. Now, once they introduced sugar, this is frightening. Look at their teeth. I'm going to pull that open more. And it wasn't just that. Sugar is highly processed. They actually had thinner bones. And your bones are like the foundation of your body. So that is shocking. And there was also another doctor that did it with cats, Pottinger's cats. And he had 3 different stalls of cats. One were fed raw meat, as he would get them from a butcher. One was half meat and half processed. So that means your grains. Yeah? Your rice, your things like that, your grains. And I'm not saying don't eat it. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. And then just simply highly processed food, like animal food that we would give them in a can or a package. And he watched them as they, would have babies and whatnot. The ones that kept eating the packaged food after so many cycles, whether it was 6 or 7, this is called epigenetics, were not able to survive or give birth or bounce anymore. They just became sick and sinewy, and they became very weak. And then the ones in the middle that had both raw meat, which is what they were designed to eat, and synthetic processed food, they did okay. They still were able to survive, and that's probably like similar to some of the humans on planet Earth here. The ones that ate straight butcher food, they were robust, they were beautiful, they were able to multiply, bounce around, they just had incredible health. And then he learned how many generations it took to bring them back to their optimal health, and it took a few generations. It's called epigenetics. And what was interesting for me around that is I realized that, if you see a lot of the people, and this isn't to be mean, we're programmed to believe that, the Betty Crocker stuff is good for us, or the Kraft is good for us, or Cheerios are good for us. Those are not foods, those are anti-foods. And when we give those to our children, we are absolutely doing them a huge disservice. And if those children ever get to a place where they want to multiply, they're probably not going to have that great of a time, because their system has inferior product as food sources. And some people can't multiply because their body's malnourished, because the ground that it comes out of has no nutrients left. Like the one book that I mentioned about Empty Harvest, the people, once they weren't able to get the nutrients from the food that they were eating, started to have nervous breakdowns, mental breakdowns, cancer, and heart disease, things they'd never seen before. And I wonder if there's a connection. If you put the wrong kind of gasoline in your car, it's not going to work very well. Well, your vehicle is your car. And there's something else I'll share. This is another book that I was introduced to years and years ago. I am a blood type O myself. And when I was introduced to this from a personal trainer that introduced me to this, I didn't get sick for 2 years. And my weight stabilized, boom. And I wasn't having to do a tremendous amount of cardio. I was doing weight training. I was in my early 40s at the time. And then I'd have clients come in and goes, I just don't know why I can't get this little bit off this last 5 pounds. And I'd say, well, do you know what your blood type is? And long story short is we would find out it's often a blood type O. And I would say, well, get rid of the oats, get rid of the wheat, get rid of this, get rid of that. 5 pounds would peel right off. And so this is just another way of going, what works for me? If you're a blood type A, you do well on a vegetarian-based diet. If you're a blood type O and you try to go vegetarian, you're probably going to have 20 to 30 pounds of extra body mass that you don't want. And what I'm wanting to do is just give people a little bit of food in regards to how do I take care of this, your body. Food needs to be a high quality product. I always say be a food snob. Do not buy junk. If you're going to eat baked goods, eat what you make. If you're going to eat baked goods, eat it right after you worked out and have a protein shake if you can with it. And I know protein powder is processed. Yes, it is true. But it is one of the conveniences of the modern world that we live in. If you do dairy, do organic. It's critical. Your body has to take all of these nutrients and repair your cell tissue. And if you're putting in inferior product, it's like building a house with particle board. It still looks like a house, it just doesn't last the same. It ends up with things going wrong. And those things could cost you your ability to work, your ability to feel good. It could put you in line of being constantly medicated by our pharmaceutical industrial complex that just has a new label for everything so it can give you a new drug. And doctors, nothing against doctors, they only get 2 weeks of nutritional training in their years of education. And it's funded by the pharmaceutical industry that says, we like this pyramid. We want you to eat lots of carbs. Lots of carbs. And that depends where you came from. If you're Asian, you'll do well on that. They do well. If you're European, you need the high-fat meat. And you need the vegetables, and you need some of the cheeses and some of that. So if you can go back where my parents come from and follow that, you'll probably discover that your ancestors would have lived on certain types of foods. And if you go to those foods, your health will improve because your body can't lie. We've been brainwashed. We've drank the Kool-Aid that's destroyed most of our health. And then we wonder why we feel terrible, or why we struggle with weight, or why we have skin issues, or why we have stomach issues. One of the hunas, the kahuna, which is a Hawaiian for shaman, huna healing, they say, they don't put people on diets. They go, how do you feel after you eat it? And that tells you the truth about that food. And if you have more energy, that food's good for you. If you have less energy, it's not. It's so simple. Listen to the body. Most of us are so busy thinking, checking a new thing on the phone, that we don't listen to our body. We treat it like something that we just put up with. And meanwhile, it is everything to us. So I hope that something here has stirred something in you to give you the inspiration to wonder, where does your food come from? Are you eating stuff from the regular store? Do you know the price to that for you? And I'm not, this isn't about shaming anybody. This is just being curious. Be a private investigator. I love food, but I also like to feel good because that is what builds my life. Thank you for watching. And there'll be 2 more videos coming out this month in January 2026. Have a wonderful day.